Admiral Vexitar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the stars bend and twist as his massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 500 warships materialized in perfect formation around him, their dark hulls gleaming under the light of a yellow star. Each vessel was a monument to Zephyrian engineering, stretching over 2 kilometers in length and bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The Admiral's 4 eyes scanned the tactical display floating before him. 847 star systems had fallen before his fleets. 847 civilizations had knelt before the might of the Zephyrian hegemony. This small system on the edge of the galaxy would be number 848. "Report," Vexitar commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge's crystalline chambers. Commander Zalith stepped forward, her scaled skin shifting from blue to green in excitement. "Admiral, we have arrived at the target system. Initial scans confirm the intelligence reports. The local species calls themselves humans and their world Earth. They have achieved basic faster-than-light travel within the last 50 years. Vexitar's mandibles clicked in amusement. 50 years. His people had been traveling between stars for over 10,000 years. These humans were barely crawling out of their gravity well. "Defense capabilities?" he asked. "Minimal, sir. We detect 12 primitive vessels in the outer system. Their largest ship measures only 800 meters. Their weapons appear to be basic plasma cannons and kinetic projectiles." The Admiral's laugh rumbled through the bridge. 12 ships against 500. It was almost insulting. The hegemony's intelligence division had recommended sending only a single battle group for this conquest, but Vexitar believed in overwhelming force. It sent a message to other species watching from across the galaxy. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the 3rd planet. Multiple frequencies, various languages. They appear to be in some distress about our arrival." "Of course they are," Vexitar said. "Display their world on the main viewer." The massive screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life, showing a blue and green marble hanging in the void. White clouds swirled across its surface, and Vexitar could see the lights of cities on the dark side of the planet. It was a beautiful world, perfect for Zephyrian colonization once the current inhabitants were relocated to work camps. "Population estimate?" he asked. "Approximately 8 billion, sir, concentrated in large urban centers. Their technology level varies significantly across different regions of their planet." Vexitar nodded. It was always the same story. Species that had just discovered space travel were never united. They would have different governments, different languages, different armies. It made conquest so much easier when the enemy couldn't even agree among themselves. "Admiral," Commander Zalith said, "shall I order the standard formation? Pincer, movement around their primary world?" "Yes, but slowly. Let them see our numbers. Let them understand what they face." Vexitar turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to their planet. All frequencies." The bridge fell silent as technicians worked their controls. Within moments, a confirmation light blinked green. "Channel open, sir." Vexitar straightened his massive frame and spoke in the tone he had used hundreds of times before. The universal translator would convert his words into whatever primitive languages these humans used. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Vexitar of the Zephyrian hegemony's 12th Conquest Fleet. Your system now falls under hegemony control. You have one of your planetary rotations to surrender unconditionally. Gather your leaders and prepare surrender documents. Resistance will result in the complete elimination of your species. This is your only warning." He gestured for the channel to be closed, then turned back to the tactical display. Already his ships were beginning their slow advance toward the inner system. The formation was beautiful to watch. 500 deadly vessels moving in perfect coordination, like a school of predatory fish closing in on helpless prey. "Sir," the sensor officer reported, "we're detecting movement from their defensive fleet. The 12 ships they appear to be organizing some kind of formation near the 4th planet." Vexitar's laugh was harsh. 12 ships, are they seriously planning to fight us?" "It appears so, sir. Wait." The officer's voice became confused. "Sir, I'm reading something unusual. One of their ships is significantly different from the others. It's smaller, but showing some interesting energy signatures. Explain. Well, sir, 11 of their ships match our intelligence reports. Basic construction, simple weapons, standard defensive shields. But this 12th ship, it's reading differently. More advanced somehow. Vextar moved closer to the sensor station. On the display, he could see 12 tiny dots representing the human fleet. 11 clustered together near the gas giant they called Jupiter. One sat slightly apart from the others. Probably their flagship, Commander Zalith suggested. Many primitive species put extra decorations on their command vessels to make them look more impressive. Perhaps, Vextar mused, but something nagged at him. In 847 conquests, he had learned to pay attention to small details. Details kept fleets alive and conquered galaxies. What's the name of this different ship? The communications officer checked his readings. The designation appears to be UHSV Indomitable, sir. The prefix seems to stand for United Human Space. Vessel. Indomitable, Vextar repeated slowly. An interesting choice of name for such a small vessel. Admiral, the sensor officer called out again. We're receiving response transmissions from the planet. Multiple sources. Different governments, apparently. Some are requesting negotiations, others are... Well, sir, some appear to be refusing. Surrender entirely. This was normal. It always took primitive species time to accept the inevitable. Some would try to negotiate, thinking they could bargain their way out of conquest. Others would rage and threaten, not understanding the vast difference in power they faced. Eventually, they all surrendered. Any word from their fleet? Nothing yet, sir. They're maintaining position near the 4th planet. Vextar studied the tactical display more carefully. The human formation was strange. Instead of spreading out to cover more space or clustering for mutual defense, they seemed to be positioned randomly. It showed their lack of proper military training. Commander Zalith, take us to battle stations. I want this finished quickly. Yes, sir. All ships, assume attack formation Delta. Prepare for planetary bombardment if they refuse final surrender. Across the Zephyrian fleet, 500 warships powered up their weapon systems. Energy readings spiked as massive plasma cannons charged. Shield generators hummed to life. Fighter bays opened, ready to release clouds of deadly interceptors. The Admiral looked at the small blue world growing larger on his screen. Soon, those lights on the dark side would go out one by one as the planet submitted to hegemony rule. The humans would join the countless other species working in the vast factories and mines that powered the Zephyrian war machine. It was almost too easy. Time to human surrender deadline? He asked. 18 hours, sir. Good. That gives them time to truly appreciate their situation. But as Admiral Vextar watched his overwhelming fleet advance toward the inner system, he found his attention returning to that single unusual ship sitting apart from the others, the Indomitable. Such a bold name for something so small. He dismissed the thought. In 18 hours it would be nothing but debris floating in space, just like all the others who had stood against the might of the Zephyrian hegemony. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the Indomitable's bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the main display showing 500 alien warships arranged in a perfect formation. Each enemy vessel was more than twice the size of her ship, and, together they represented firepower that could glass entire planets. Captain, Lieutenant Commander James Park called from the sensor station. I'm reading massive energy signatures from their fleet. Those ships are armed with weapons we've never seen before. Elena nodded grimly. She had expected this. When the first hyperspace anomalies appeared on Earth's long-range sensors 3 days ago, every military analyst knew what it meant. First, contact was finally happening and it wasn't going to be friendly. What's our status, Park? All systems green, Captain. Fusion reactors at full power, weapon systems charged, defensive grids online. The new armor plating is holding steady under diagnostic stress. Elena looked around her bridge. 24 of the finest officers in the United Human Space Navy, handpicked for this moment. They all knew the odds. Earth's entire defensive fleet consisted of 12 ships, and 11 of them were barely more than armed cargo haulers compared to what they faced. The Indomitable was different. Built in the secret orbital yards above Mars, it represented 5 years of desperate innovation after Earth's deep space probes detected signs of hostile alien civilizations. Every system on the ship was designed with one purpose in mind: to give humanity a fighting chance against superior numbers. Communications. Replay that surrender demand. The alien admiral's voice filled the bridge again, cold and arrogant. Elena had heard that tone before in history books from conquerors who thought victory was guaranteed. She found it strangely comforting. Overconfident enemies made mistakes. Captain, Ensign Lisa Chen spoke up from the communications console. We're receiving frantic transmissions from Earth. The Global Defense Council is requesting immediate conference with you. Put them through. The main screen switched to show the crisis chamber beneath Geneva, where representatives from every Earth nation sat around a massive table. Elena could see the fear in their faces, but also something else: determination. General Morrison, head of the Global Defense Council, spoke first. Captain Vasquez, what's your assessment? Honestly, sir, we're outnumbered and outgunned by factors that make this mathematically impossible. Several council members exchanged worried glances. However, Elena continued, their formation suggests they're used to fighting enemies who follow conventional tactics. Large formations, predictable movements, honor-bound combat. They're expecting us to line up and trade shots until the bigger fleet wins. What are you suggesting, Captain? Asked Dr. Sarah Williams, Earth's chief xenobiologist. I'm suggesting we don't fight fair. The screen went quiet. Finally, General Morrison spoke. Captain, you have full authorization to engage, as you see. Fit. Earth is counting on you. Understood, sir. Indomitable out. Elena turned back to her crew. All right, people, you heard the man. We're all that stands between Earth and slavery. XO, what's the status of the other ships in our fleet? Commander Martinez consulted his tablet. The Yorktown, Hood, Nimitz, and the others are good ships with brave crews, but their technology is 15 years behind ours. They're asking for orders. Elena studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was advancing slowly, clearly trying to intimidate Earth into surrender. Their formation was textbook perfect: overlapping fields of fire, mutual support, advanced scouts. It was exactly what she would expect from a military that had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. Send a message to our fleet. Have them fall back toward Earth in what looks like panic. Make it convincing. Captain? Martinez looked confused. We need to draw them in. Look at their formation. They're advancing in a standard pincer movement. They expect us to either run away or charge straight at them. We're going to give them what they expect to see. Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from his sensors. Captain, I'm reading some interesting data on their ships. They're huge, but their maneuvering thrusters are proportionally small. Those vessels are built for straight-line combat in open space. Exactly what I was thinking. They've designed ships to fight other ships that behave predictably. What else? Their formation is extremely tight, good for mutual defense, but if something got inside that formation, it would be like a fox in a henhouse, Elena finished. Calm. Send new orders to our fleet. I want them to begin emergency burn toward Earth. Make it look like we're abandoning the outer system. Aye, Captain. On the main screen, Elena watched as the 11 other human ships suddenly broke formation and accelerated toward Earth. Their movements looked panicked, desperate. She was proud of those crews. They were playing their part perfectly despite knowing they were essentially bait. Captain, Ensign Chen called out. The alien admiral is broadcasting again. Let's hear it. Admiral Vextar's voice filled the bridge once more, and Elena could hear the satisfaction in his tone. Humans of Earth, your fleet has shown wisdom in retreating. You have 12 of your hours remaining to prepare surrender documents. Do not test our patience further. Elena smiled coldly. Let him think he was winning. XO, take us to yellow alert. I want all combat systems ready but not active. We need to look like we're either running or preparing to make a last stand. What's the plan, Captain? Elena moved to the tactical station and began entering coordinates. The alien fleet is advancing in formation. They'll reach the inner system in about 10 hours. probably expecting to find our ships clustered around Earth for a final desperate defense. She highlighted several points on the display. But they have to pass through the asteroid belt to get there. And unlike their previous conquests, they've never fought anyone who grew up in a system full of rocks, gas giants, and gravitational anomalies. Commander Martinez began to understand. You want to use the terrain. Exactly. Their ships are built for open space combat. Ours is built for system defense with superior maneuverability and point defense systems. In open space, they'd crush us. But in a cluttered environment like our inner system, we'd have the advantage. Park finished. Captain, this is brilliant. But it's still one ship against 500. Elena looked around at her crew. These were the best humanity had to offer, trained for this exact moment. The Indomitable wasn't just a ship. It was humanity's declaration that they wouldn't go quietly into slavery. You're right. It is one ship against 500. But those 500 ships have never fought anything like us before. They've conquered civilizations that fought by the rules, species that lined up their fleets and had honorable battles. They have no idea what humans are capable of when their backs are against the wall. She moved to her command chair and activated the ship's intercom. All hands, this is the captain. In approximately 9 hours, we're going to do something that's never been done before. We're going to prove that humanity doesn't need the biggest fleet to win. We just need to be smarter, faster, and more stubborn than anything else in the EIA galaxy. I know the odds look impossible, but remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to show the galaxy that humans don't surrender. Ever. As the Indomitable began its slow movement toward the inner system, Elena felt a strange calm settle over her. This was what she had trained for her entire career. This was humanity's moment. The alien admiral thought he was hunting helpless prey. He was about to learn that humans were never prey. They were predators. Admiral Vextar watched with satisfaction as the human fleet continued its panicked retreat toward their homeworld. The 11 primitive vessels were burning their engines at maximum power, clearly desperate to reach the imagined safety of their planet's orbital defenses. Status report, he commanded. Sir, the human vessels have passed Mars and are approaching the asteroid belt. They appear to be taking a direct course toward Earth. And the unusual ship? The Indomitable? Commander Zalith checked her displays. Still following the others, sir, but maintaining some distance. Perhaps their command structure is breaking down under pressure. Vextar nodded. It was common for primitive species to lose military discipline when facing overwhelming odds. Soon, they would likely break formation entirely and scatter, making the final hunt even easier. Advance the fleet. Standard attack formation. I want this finished before the deadline expires. The massive Zephyrian Armada began moving forward, their formation as perfect as always. 500 warships in precise coordination, a sight that had broken the will of countless civilizations before they even fired a shot. On the Indomitable, Captain Vasquez watched the alien fleet approach through the asteroid belt. Distance to the alien formation? 2 million kilometers and closing, Captain. They're maintaining standard spacing, roughly 5 kilometers between ships. Elena studied the tactical display carefully. The alien formation was impressive but predictable. They were advancing in a classic envelope pattern, designed to surround and destroy any force that stood against them. It had probably worked perfectly for centuries. XO, what's our status on the new systems? Commander Martinez consulted his boards. Adaptive shielding is online and tested. Point defense matrix is fully charged. Maneuvering thrusters are responding at 120% of design specifications. Elena smiled. Those systems were what made the Indomitable special. While the other human ships were built using conventional technology, her vessel incorporated every breakthrough Earth's scientists had made in the last 5 years, systems that no alien empire had ever encountered. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Park called out, the alien fleet is entering the outer edge of the asteroid belt. Their formation is holding steady. Of course it is. They've probably used the same tactics for thousands of years. Why change what works? Elena moved to her command chair and activated the ship's tactical computer. Helm, prepare for emergency maneuvers. I want full power to engines and maneuvering thrusters. Aye, Captain. All stations report ready. Good. Com, send a message to the other ships in our fleet. Tell them to continue toward Earth and prepare for orbital defense. They're going to want to watch what happens next. On the main screen, Elena could see the massive alien vessels moving through the asteroid field like ancient battleships sailing through calm seas. Their formation was beautiful in its precision. Each ship exactly where Doctrine said it should be. Captain, Ensign Chen spoke up from communications. I'm monitoring alien comm traffic. They seem very confident. Their admiral is already discussing occupation procedures for Earth. Let him plan his victory parade. Helm, take us off the retreat course. New heading, directly toward the center of their formation. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what the captain was ordering. Ma'am, the helmsman said carefully, that course will take us straight into 500 enemy ships. That's exactly where I want to go. Commander Martinez stepped closer to Elena's chair. Captain, with respect, this appears to be a suicide run. Elena turned to face her crew. Does it? Or does it look like something else entirely? She gestured to the tactical display. Look at their formation. Perfect spacing, mutual support, overlapping fields of fire. It's designed to destroy enemies that approach from predictable directions. She highlighted several points on the screen. But what happens when something fast and maneuverable gets inside that formation? Something their targeting computers aren't designed to track? Something that uses their own ships as cover? Understanding began to dawn on the faces around her. You want to break their formation from the inside, Park realized. Exactly. They've designed their tactics around fighting enemies who follow the rules. We're going to show them what happens when humans stop playing fair. Elena turned back to the main screen. The alien fleet was growing larger, individual ships now visible as dark shapes against the stars. All stations, battle stations, this is it, people. Helm, maximum acceleration, take us right down their throats. The Indomitable suddenly broke away from the retreating human fleet and shot forward like an arrow. Its fusion engines flared to maximum power, pushing the ship to velocities that would have torn apart the older human vessels. On Admiral Vexitar's flagship, alarms began sounding. Sir, the unusual human ship has changed course. It's approaching our formation at high speed. Vexitar moved to the tactical display, his 4 eyes focusing on the single dot racing toward his fleet. What are they doing? This is clearly a suicide attack. Orders, sir? Let them come. Their ship will be destroyed the moment it enters our firing range. It will serve as an example to the others. But as the Indomitable streaked toward the Zephyrian formation, something unexpected happened. Instead of charging straight at the nearest ships, it suddenly veered and dove beneath the alien fleet's plane of advance. What are they doing? Commander Zalith asked, confused. Before anyone could answer, the Indomitable shot up through the formation from below, its point defense systems blazing. Streams of hypervelocity projectiles and focused plasma beams reached out to slice through the vulnerable undersides of Zephyrian vessels. The first alien ship to die never even had time to return fire. The Indomitable's weapons found weak points in its armor that no computer had programmed as targets, weak points that only became vulnerable when attacked from specific angles. All ships open fire, Vexitar roared. But the order created more problems. The human vessel was moving through his formation so quickly that his own ships were in each other's line of fire. Captain Vasquez felt the ship shudder as alien weapons fire passed close by. But the Indomitable's adaptive shielding held firm. The system analyzed each incoming shot and adjusted the shield frequency to provide maximum protection. Status report, she called out as her ship corkscrewed between 2 massive alien dreadnoughts. Shields holding at 85%. Direct hit on target. 3, it's breaking apart. Target 7 is showing critical damage. Excellent. Helm, take us through the center of their formation. Use their own ships as cover. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Indomitable danced through the alien formation, like a fighter plane attacking a convoy of cargo ships. Its superior maneuverability allowed it to stay inside the enemy formation, where their heavy weapons couldn't be brought to bear effectively. Every time the Zephyrian ships tried to target, The human vessel, they risked hitting their own forces. Every time they adjusted formation to get clear shots, the Indomitable was already somewhere else, striking from a new angle. Admiral Vextar watched in growing horror as his perfect formation began to collapse. Ships were colliding as they tried to avoid hitting each other while pursuing the impossible human vessel. Others were burning from precise strikes to critical systems. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "It's one ship, sir," his tactical officer reported with a shaking voice. "We've lost 12 vessels in the last 3 minutes. The human ship appears to be targeting our command and control systems specifically." On the Indomitable, Elena was grinning fiercely as she watched the alien formation fall apart around her. "That's right," she said softly. "Welcome to human warfare." The trap was sprung, and the hunters had become the hunted. The Indomitable rolled inverted and dove beneath a massive Zephyrian cruiser, its weapons reaching up to carve through the alien vessel's reactor housing. The explosion lit up space for thousands of kilometers, and Captain Vasquez used the blast as cover to attack the next ship in line. "Captain!" Lieutenant Commander Park shouted over the noise of weapons fire and engine strain. "Enemy formation is breaking apart. They're trying to create space to use their heavy weapons." Elena spun her ship around a destroyer that was attempting to ram her and fired a full spread of missiles into its bridge section. "Let them try. The more they spread out, the easier it becomes to pick them off one by one." On Admiral Vextar's bridge, chaos reigned. Status reports flooded in from across the fleet, each one worse than the last. "Sir, the Destroyer of Worlds has lost main power. Admiral, the Eternal Victory is reporting critical damage to all weapon systems." "Sir, the human ship just destroyed the Iron Fist with a single attack run." Vextar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In 15 minutes of combat, his perfect formation had been shattered. Ships were scattered across thousands of cubic kilometers, many of them burning wrecks. And at the center of it all, one small human vessel continued its deadly dance. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. 47 confirmed destroyed, sir. Another 33 with major damage. Out of 500 ships, one primitive vessel has destroyed 47? Vextar's voice rose to a roar. "How is this possible?" Commander Zalith's skin had shifted to deep purple, a sign of extreme stress. "Sir, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered before. Their tactics make no sense according to standard military doctrine." "Explain." "Look at their attack patterns." She highlighted the Indomitable's path on the display. "They're not trying to control space or establish fire superiority. They're hunting individual ships like a predator attacking a herd." Vextar studied the chaotic swirls and loops showing the human ship's movement. It was true. Instead of engaging in the kind of formation combat that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia, the humans were fighting like wild animals. "And their technology," Zalith continued, "it's not more advanced than ours. It's just completely different. Their shields adapt to our weapons. Their engines allow maneuvers our computers can't predict. Their weapons target systems we didn't even know were vulnerable." On the Indomitable, Elena was discovering something that would change galactic history forever. The alien ships weren't just big, they were predictable. Their computers followed rigid tactical programs. Their crews had been trained to fight specific types of enemies in specific ways. "XO, I'm reading massive energy buildup from their flagship. Looks like they're charging some kind of superweapon." Commander Martinez checked his sensors. "Confirmed, Captain. Whatever it is, it's big enough to crack a moon." "Perfect. Helm, set course for the flagship. Time to introduce their admiral to human diplomacy." The Indomitable shot through the scattered remains of the alien formation, using destroyed ships as stepping stones toward the center, where Admiral Vextar's massive dreadnought waited. Enemy fire followed the human ship, but Elena's tactics made targeting nearly impossible. She would accelerate toward one alien vessel, forcing it to turn and present its broadside to avoid collision. Then she would slip beneath another ship, using its bulk to block enemy sensors. When Zephyrian vessels tried to pursue her, she would lead them into the firing lines of their own allies. "Captain," Ensign Chen called out, "I'm intercepting alien communications. They're trying to coordinate a mass firing solution on us." "How long until they're ready?" "Approximately 3 minutes, ma'am." Elena smiled grimly. Then we have 3 minutes to finish this. All power to engines. I want ramming. Speed. The Indomitable shot forward like a missile aimed directly at the Eternal Dominion. To any observer, it looked like a final, desperate suicide attack. Admiral Vextar saw the human ship approaching and felt a moment of relief. Finally, they're going to try to ram us. All batteries, target that ship. Destroy it before it reaches us. But the Indomitable wasn't planning to ram the flagship. At the last possible moment, Elena ordered a hard turn that took her ship skimming along the surface of the alien dreadnought. Point defense weapons traced lines of destruction across the massive vessel's hull, targeting sensor arrays, weapon mounts, and communication dishes. The alien flagship suddenly went blind and deaf, its sensors destroyed and communications cut. But that wasn't the real purpose of the attack. XO, did you get the readings? Yes, ma'am. Complete scan of their shield frequencies, weapon charging cycles, and structural weak points. Excellent. Now we know exactly how to kill them. Elena brought her ship around for another pass, but this time she wasn't alone. The other 11 ships of Earth's defense fleet had finally arrived, and they were following her lead. Captain Rodriguez of the Yorktown opened a communication channel. Indomitable, this is Yorktown. We saw what you did to their formation. What are your orders? Follow my lead and target the ships I designate. Use the tactical data I'm uploading to your computers. And remember, we're not trying to fight fair. We're trying to win. What happened next was even more devastating than the first attack. The human fleet, tiny as it was, had learned from watching the Indomitable's assault. They knew where the alien ships were vulnerable, how their computers thought, and what their commanders expected. The Zephyrian fleet found itself fighting an enemy that refused to behave according to any known military doctrine. Human ships would attack from impossible angles, retreat when they should advance, and advance when retreat was the logical choice. Admiral Vextar's mighty armada, which had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds, began to fall apart completely. His ships were designed to fight honorable enemies who followed the established rules of galactic warfare. They had never faced predators who made their own rules. Sir, Commander Zaleth's voice was barely controlled panic. Fleet casualties are approaching 100 ships destroyed. The remaining vessels are requesting permission to withdraw. Vextar stared at the tactical display, watching his proud formation turned into scattered groups of confused and damaged vessels. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. One ship, he whispered. One primitive ship destroyed my entire battle plan. Sir, what are your orders? For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vextar didn't know what to say. How do you fight an enemy that doesn't follow any rules you understand? On the Indomitable, Captain Vasquez was asking herself a different question entirely. How many more alien ships could they destroy before this was over? The answer, she was beginning to realize, might be all of them. The battle was over. Admiral Vextar stood alone on his damaged bridge, staring at the tactical display that showed the impossible. Of his 500 ships, only 53 remained functional. The rest were either destroyed completely or drifting, powerless through space, their crews abandoning ship in whatever escape pods still worked. The human fleet, 12 primitive vessels that should have been destroyed in the first volley, hung motionless near Earth, their weapons still powered, but no longer firing. They had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won. Sir. Commander Zaleth's voice was barely a whisper. The human flagship is requesting communication. Vextar almost laughed. The humans wanted to talk. After destroying an armada that had conquered 1,000 worlds, they wanted to have a conversation, put them through. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Indomitable. Captain Elena Vasquez sat in her command chair, her uniform torn and blackened from battle, but her eyes burning with fierce determination. Admiral Vextar, she said, her voice calm and professional. I believe we need to discuss terms. Terms? Vextar's mandibles clicked in disbelief. You offer me terms after destroying my fleet? I'm offering you the chance to leave this system alive, Elena replied evenly. You came here expecting an easy conquest. Instead, you've learned something important about humanity. We don't surrender, and we don't fight fair when our survival is at stake. Vextar looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. His mighty flagship was barely functional. The greatest military force in Zephyrian history had been broken by a handful of primitive vessels and one impossible ship. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want you to take your remaining ships and go home. Tell your hegemony that Earth is off limits. Tell them that humans are not a species to be conquered. And tell them that if they come back, we'll be ready for them." Elena leaned forward in her chair. "But most importantly, Admiral, I want you to spread word throughout the galaxy. Let every species know that there's a new power among the stars, a power that doesn't need massive fleets or overwhelming numbers to defend itself." "You think this one victory makes you rulers of the galaxy?" Vextar asked, but there was no strength left in his voice. "No," Elena said simply, "but it proves that the old way of doing things is over. For thousands of years, your people and others like them have conquered through superior numbers and standardized tactics. You've beaten down every species that tried to fight you using conventional warfare." She gestured to her crew around her. "But humans aren't conventional, Admiral. We're adaptable, we're creative, and when you threaten our home, we become something your military doctrine never planned for." On screens throughout the surviving Zephyrian ships, alien crews watched this exchange in stunned silence. Many of them had served in dozens of conquest campaigns. They had seen entire civilizations submit after witnessing the power of hegemony fleets. None of them had ever imagined a scene like this. "The galaxy is changing," Elena continued. "Your hegemony expanded because you were fighting enemies who accepted that bigger fleets always win. That superior technology always triumphs. That resistance is futile against overwhelming force." She stood up from her chair. "Today you learned that none of those things are true when you're fighting humans. We don't care about your superior numbers. We don't fight by your rules. And we absolutely refuse to believe that resistance is futile." Admiral Vextar found himself nodding slowly. In his centuries of military service, he had never encountered anything like the battle he had just lost. The humans hadn't simply defeated his fleet. They had made his entire understanding of warfare obsolete. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now, you go home," Elena said. "You tell your leaders that humanity is under Earth's protection. You let other species know that there's an alternative to surrender. And you hope that we never have reason to leave our system looking for you." She paused, then added quietly, "Because if we do come looking, Admiral, we won't be bringing 12 ships next time." The communication ended, leaving Vextar alone with his thoughts. Around him, his bridge crew worked silently to prepare their damaged ships for the long journey home. "Orders, sir?" Commander Zalith asked. "Signal the fleet," Vextar said slowly. "We're withdrawing from this system immediately." "And the mission, sir? The conquest of Earth?" Vextar looked at the tactical display one more time, seeing the small blue world that had just changed everything. "The mission is over, Commander. We came here to conquer primitives, and instead we found apex predators." As the battered remnants of the Zephyrian fleet limped away from Earth's solar system, Captain Vasquez stood on her bridge watching them go. Her crew was exhausted, her ship was damaged, and she knew that this victory would bring new challenges. Word would spread throughout the galaxy. Some species would see humanity as a potential ally against oppression. Others would view them as a new threat to be eliminated. The isolation that Earth had enjoyed for so long was over forever. "Captain," Commander Martinez said quietly, "do you really think they'll stay away?" Elena considered the question carefully. "The Zephyrians will, at least for a while. They need time to figure out how to fight an enemy like us. But there are other empires out there, other fleets that think conquest is their right." She turned to address her entire bridge crew. "Which is why we need to be ready for them. Today we proved that humans can defend Earth. Tomorrow we need to prove that humans can defend anyone who asks for our help." Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from his sensor station. "Captain, I'm receiving communications from across the galaxy. Multiple species are requesting contact with Earth. Some are asking for protection, others offering alliance." Elena smiled. "The galaxy is about to learn something new about humans, Park. We're not just good at defending ourselves. We're even better at helping others defend themselves. In the months that followed, stories of the Battle of Earth spread through every corner of the galaxy. The tale grew with each telling, one human ship destroying an entire armada, Earth's tiny fleet defeating forces that had conquered hundreds of worlds. But the most important part of the story wasn't the victory itself. It was what happened after. Human. Ships began appearing throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors but as teachers. They showed other species how to fight asymmetrically, how to use creativity instead of firepower, how to turn their enemies' strengths into weaknesses. The age of massive battle fleets sweeping across the galaxy was ending. In its place came something new, an age where any species, no matter how small or primitive, could defend itself if it had the will to learn from the humans. Admiral Vextar eventually returned to the hegemony capital, where he told his story to a council that could barely believe it. Some called for immediate retaliation, for fleets 10 times larger to crush the human threat. But others, wiser perhaps, recognized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The old certainties were gone. The rules that had governed galactic warfare for millennia no longer applied. Humanity had done more than defend Earth. They had shown the entire galaxy that there was an alternative to conquest and submission. They had shown that sometimes the smallest predator is the most dangerous one of all. And in the depths of space around Earth, new ships were being built. Ships designed not for conquest, but for protection. Ships that would carry human crews to any corner of the galaxy where freedom needed defending. The Indomitable had been just the beginning.